Hey, what's going on everyone? I am the OPJellicent, and I'm here to talk about my draft for the next Wi-Fi draft league I'm going to be participating in, which is season number 2 of the IBL D League. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I've never battled anyone in this league before, and it should be a nice refreshing way to get back into the draft league format after our disappointing season in ICBA season number 4, where I actually believe I only got to play like 7 out of my 10 games, which was definitely pretty sad, so this should be a nice refresher right here. But anyway, the way this draft worked was, we actually did not have tiers. Basically, each Pokemon had a set cost, and you could draft anywhere between 8 to 11 Pokemon. So there were no tiers, you just drafted anywhere between that number, and you would be good to go. So I'm going to go through all my picks one by one, briefly explain my thought process behind each of them, along with my 2 Z-move users, and the reasoning behind those choices. So let's go ahead and hop right into my first pick. Alright, so diving right into my round 1 Pokemon right here, I picked up Mega Lopunny. Now, I will say Kyurem Black was still on the board at this point, and for anyone who may have followed my past draft leagues, I always draft that thing, but I was kind of in the mood to spin it up and try something new, and since Mega Lopunny was still around, I figured it would be my best choice. Mega Lopunny is arguably a very one-dimensional pick. It always is just going to be a physical breaker. However, there are some cool techs you can use. This league does actually allow Speed Pass, so Agility Baton Pass is definitely a thing that people will have to fear and prep for. It does also get great priority, obviously, with Fake Out as well as Quick Attack, so that could help wear down a potential win condition on my opponent's end. Being able to go ahead and revenge kill those after attacking it with something else is definitely going to be a very big part of my strategies. It does also get Healing Wish, so it can bring a win condition that would otherwise be out of the game due to like hazards, for example, back into action, which could be really cool tech, and I'm really hoping to catch somebody off guard with that. That would be very nice. Other than that, obviously a really strong stabs with high jump kick, return, and whatnot. Good speed tier, all serum stuff you guys already know, so let's just go ahead and move on to my round 2, which I think is also a really big, ridiculous steal right here, but let's go ahead and show that off. Okay, so yeah, I don't really know how this thing was still around. Landorus T is easily a top 5 draft league pick, and the fact that it went 3rd overall in the 2nd round is pretty mind-blowing, which means, like, I'll take it. I'm not complaining, obviously, but I just think it's really ridiculous. Kyurem Black was also actually still around at this point, too, and it was really painful not wanting to take that, because I was really tempted, but I really wanted to try something new in this draft, and I figured Landorus T still being around could be to fit that role pretty well nicely as well, along with Mega Lopunny, so I'm excited to try the two. I definitely think they complement each other a lot. I did not make this one of my Z-move users, even though it is obviously a very good one, because there are other 2 high-value picks that I was really debating between as well, and I opted to go with one of those instead of Landorus T, but it's obviously still very viable with a Choice Scar, for example. It does also give me a good Stealth Rock Setter and a Defogger right from the start here, which is also very nice. I really like that option. Rock Polishettes are a really good win condition, which is really just further enhanced by Mega Lopunny's ability to Healing Wish out into this Pokemon, so I really enjoyed that. Other than that, it does have a nice niche with some special options like Sludge Wave plus Hidden Power, in case that tech ends up being useful at any sort of point, but we'll see. I don't really see me itself bringing that very much. And then finally, it does give me the start to a Volturn core, which I really enjoy using those, so I definitely plan on finishing that at some point. But let's go ahead and move on to my 3rd overall pick. Alright, moving on here, once again, something I consider a steal is round 3 Weavile, which I guess it just fell under the radar, which is definitely very cool. Obviously a very solid Pokemon. The one thing that caused me to hesitate when picking Weavile was my lack of special offense. You guys might notice all of 3 of my picks so far are primarily physical attackers, so I was a little bit concerned about that, but I figured I could patch that up later, and the value that Weavile provides Mega Lopunny is just so good, because it does get access to Pursuit, which can go ahead and threaten Psychic-type Pokemon that Mega Lopunny hates, such as Reuniclus and Slowbro, which are obviously very threatening to Mega Lopunny. Obviously, Ghost types aren't really a factor because Scrappy is an ability, but it's still definitely a necessity alongside Mega Lopunny right here. It's a pretty common offensive core, and I figured it could be good to pick up right here, and it's also never something that I've tried. So 3 Pokemon to start off the draft that I've never used in Draft League before, so it should be interesting right here. It also forces Pokemon like Jolteon and Tapu Koko to run speed-boosting natures, because obviously they do want to outpace Weavile, and that basically forces them to lose a lot of power, which can definitely help Pokemon like Mega Lopunny and my Lando take hits like HP Ice a lot better, so that can be really good. I also do like its priority options with Fake Out and Ice Shards, so that can definitely do any revenge killing that Mega Lopunny may not be able to cover. The last thing is, I also did not make it one of my 2 Z-move users. This was another one of those high-value picks that I was debating about making Z, but I did actually opt to go with something else, and that pick is coming up in a couple rounds right here. But as I did say, I was worried about my special offense, so let's see how I started to patch that up moving into the 4th round. Next up here, we have the first Pokemon on this draft that I'm actually kind of familiar with in this format, which is Reuniclus. Now, I've drafted Reuniclus, I want to say 4 times, and I've run so many different sets, ranging from Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Assault Vest, Choice Specs, and even Trick Room, when between all of those, I believe I've picked up 5 straight 6-0 sweeps with this Pokemon, mostly due to Calm Mind and Calm Mind Acid Armor, which is really cool, and I'm hoping it has that reliability again. Trick Room is actually a viable option alongside Landorus T right here. I've run Trick Room plus Kyurem Black before, so I figured Landorus T should have no problem functioning well under Trick Room with either a Swords Dance set or a Choice Band set if my opponent is really that weak to Earthquake spams, so that can be very helpful. Other things that Reuniclus provide include 2 great abilities, Regenerator allowing Assault Vest to actually gain recovery, and Magic Guard, which can actually deter the opponent from laying her up hazards, so that can be very helpful considering some of the other hazard weak Pokemon on the team. And yeah, we finally started our special offense right here, which is definitely something I did say I want to build on. So that's very helpful, and I do want to continue building on that in the next few rounds right here. So let's go ahead and move on to my next pick. So this Pokemon right here, Thunderous Eye, is actually that Z-move user that caused me to forego both using Z-moves on Landorus T and Weavile. The main reason being its superior coverage over those other 2 Pokemon, with Electric Stab, Psychic, Dark Pulse, Sludge Wave, Focus Blast, Flash Cannon, and Grass Knot. It's honestly insane how much coverage it gets, so I had to choose it as my Z-move user right here. It also completes that Volturn core I mentioned when going over Landorus T, but if I really want to, I can just slap U-turn on this thing too, in case I'm worried about any opposing ground types that I may have to prep for, so U-turn can be really nice. It's also another really good win con for my team, getting access to both Nasty Plot and Agility, which is quite valuable, and the fact that it's also immune to webs can be really beneficial because it can Prankster Defog, and it's probably the fastest form of hazard control that's available in the entire draft pool, so that's really good too. I really need to prioritize hazard control considering I have both a Weavile and this Pokemon on my team, so that's very good. So it also gets some other cool physical options like Bulk Up for setup, Knockoff, U-turn as I said, as well as Superpowers, so those are all good things. And then finally some utility too, and Prankster, Thunder Wave, and Taunt, so I'm really going to be enjoying using this thing right here. I've used it twice in the past. I believe I had it in WPL Season 5, which was actually the season where I went undefeated 10-0, so ideally it can put in the same amount of work right here, and let's go ahead and move right into round number 6. So even further building on my hazard control right here, we have Best Defogger and Empoleon, nice and Lord Envy. Empoleon here also takes away some pressure from Landorus T from being forced into a Stealth Rocking role, since the Penguin here does also get access to that, which is very cool. A Steel type was also very instrumental in my team right here, considering my Ice Resist up to this point was a Weavile, and I have both a Thundy and a Landorus, which are both like really weak to Ice, so that was going to be very helpful. I believe it also does get access to Aqua Jet as well, which could be a good priority against some physically frail fire types like Volcarona, Blacephalon, Darmanitan, for example. I don't believe Volcarona and Darmanitan won. I could be mistaken regarding that, but I know Sock, I believe, picked up Blacephalon the Clown, so that could definitely be very good. Other than that, if the somehow matchup works out, I can obviously try to run some sort of Swords Dance or maybe even an Agility Defiant Physical Sweeper, which if that happens, my season will basically be complete. I don't really care if I lose every other match, if that works. Ideally not, though. I would love to do so well, obviously, but I'm not going to overstress about it. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop out right into round 8 right here, where I continue building the Steel Dragon Fairy Core. So moving on, I realized I did not actually have a Fire Resist yet. My water type of choice is actually part Steel and Empoleon, so that was looking like a pretty big problem. So I just grabbed Goodra and completely got rid of that problem due to its access to Thick Fat right here. So those Fire type attacks are going to be doing next to none damage. It does also, as I said, continue that Dragon Fairy Steel Core that I did begin with Empoleon, which, spoilers, I do end up completing that later in the draft with my last 3 picks after this, or it might be 4, I forget, but yeah, Goodra also provides me with a really nice special attacker and more special offense, which I did definitely work on with Reuni and Thunder for sure, but I wanted to continue developing that. It does, however, get physical attacks too. I believe it gets Rock Slide, Superpower, and Aqua Tail. I have seen Goodra with a Rock Slide beat Volcarona before, so that's going to have to be something my opponents consider a lot too. And it could force a lot of primarily special attackers to run physical attacks just due to AV being such a prevalent set. For example, I'm just using Sock's Blacephalon as an example again. It could be forced to run Explosion if it really wants to get past this Goodra, so I can predict those techs accordingly. I have actually drafted Blacef myself, and I once ran Explosion to get past an Assault Vest Muck, and that worked out beautifully, so that could definitely be something I expect, and just prep for very well right there. I do also believe that's all I have to say about Goodra, so let's go ahead and move on to round number 8. So coming in at round 8 here, you'll see this league is really budget friendly in terms of points, because I'm getting what would normally be another tier 3 alongside Megalop, Weavile, Lando, and Thundy Eye, which are all normally tier 1 Pokemon, so that's really cool. Shaman here provides me with a speed tier between Lando and Thundee, which can force Pokemon above base 100 like Blacephalon and Garchomp, for example, to run speed boosting nature, so that's very good. Once again, it adds to my special offense, and while its coverage isn't very special, usually consisting of just Seed Flare, Earth Power, Air Slash Psychic, and Dazzling Gleam, it does give me another bulky pivot, which I do value a lot. I really love bulky pivot Pokemon that can still put on the pressure. Pokemon like Reuniclus, which can come in and sponge an attack and fire off an attack, can do something similar to that, of course. It also gives me another Pokemon with Healing Wish support, so now I have 2 users of that move, of Healing Wish, with Megalop and Shaman here, so that's very cool. As I said, having the ability to play more recklessly with their win cons is just so valuable, especially since I love to make super offensive reads, which could set me back. The Healing Wish support is going to be very good in regards to that. Anyway, with Shaman being covered, let's go ahead and move on to the last few picks of the draft here. So to complete that Fairy Dragon Steel Core, I started with Goodra and Empoleon. We have regular Deontay here. Now, I have used the Mega variant of this Pokemon a few times in draft, and the regular variant looks actually pretty nice, to be honest. It gives me a 3rd Stealth Rock Setter, which is definitely very cool. Takes off the pressure from both Empoleon and the Landorus T, of course. It is also a Dragon immunity, which that typing looked super threatening against my roster up until now, just due to how many times Empoleon is forced to switch in defensively during the match, so that can definitely be very good. Other things Deontay can do include dual screens, so a Rocks and dual screens variant along with a Suicide Lead is definitely a thing, which Endeavor further enhances that option, which is really nice. You can go ahead and get up Rocks and then dual screens, stick a Steel type attack, maybe Endeavor them down, and then you can go ahead and bring out a Pokemon after to threaten them, so that can be very good. It also gives me a 2nd Trick Room Sitter alongside Reuniclus, so I could very well bust out the Trick Room at some point with this roster, which could be very exciting. Like I said, I think Lando can very well abuse that Trick Room, so that could be very good. 2 picks left to go here. Let's go ahead and hop right into the first of those 2. So here's another pick I've actually utilized in the past. We have McMortar, which I had in the recent season of WPL. I will say I've brought McMortar 4 times that season, and I only brought Bellydrum. I never actually bring a special variant of McMortar, just due to how fun Bellydrum is. Bellydrum alone actually convinced me to make this my low-tier Z-move user. I had to Z something only worth 20 points due to the 200-point budget, and since Thundurus was 180 points, I had to use only 20 points for my second Z-move user. So McMortar was definitely the best choice right here, and Z Bellydrum is definitely coming out at some point. I'm definitely bringing that. That being said, it does still get some better special options, of course, like Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Focus Blast, and I believe Z Solar Beam turning into Bloom Doom could be a thing as well. So it is a really unpredictable Pokemon right here. We do have Defog on Orlando, Empoleon, and Thundurus at this point, so I do not believe the Rock's weakness will be too detrimental to McMortar right here. And let's go ahead and move on to the final pick of my draft. So rounding out my draft here, I figured a Spin Blocker could be a good idea just due to hazards wearing down Pokemon for my cleaners, like Landorus T and Mega Lopunny, so I scooped up Mismagius, which I think Mismagius, besides Cofagrigus, is the best budget ghost type you can find in the draft pool. I was actually considering making Weavile my Z-move user, as I said, and since Weavile was only 160 points and we have a 200 budget, Mismagius here could have actually been my second Z-move user for 40 points, which would have given me my 200 budget, but I did opt to go the Thundurus mix McMortar out just because of the superior coverage, as I said. Mismagius' speed tier, though, does really fit nicely between Shaman and Thundurus because Shaman is obviously base 100, Thundee is base 111. The base 105 speed tier right here is basically in between those two, so that's very good. Levitate obviously further enhances my ability to take on ground spam, which I guess Thundurus and Lando covered anyway, but obviously Mold Breaker hits or 1000 arrows are going to be problems. Anyway, that's going to be my draft for the season. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. On a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you think we're going to do? And week 1 will be going live a week from when this video goes up, so I will see you all then. Later.